to my channel. In this video, I will share with you a very nice bag recipe, the model of which belongs to a famous brand. We will prepare a beautiful portfolio consisting of motifs. Look, I want to show you the model in detail. It is incredibly beautiful. I can say that it is more regular than the one in the store. Let's take a look at the base part. Again, it has a really enjoyable construction around the edges. There will be aces on the inside and a zipper on the mouth. I will take it to the tailor. The important thing here was to describe the bag. It is really enjoyable and easy to make, and I have shared it with you in detail, step by step. I hope that will be useful. I would like to show you the rope I used. I used 2 balls of spaghetti yarn, paper yarn, and let's look at the content of the yarn. Mixed 100% paper, 250 meters long. It weighs 150 grams and has many different color options. You can also look at different color options by visiting spaghetti.com. I will also add the link of the color I used in the description section below. Before moving on to our recipe, I would like to make a small request from you. You can subscribe to our channel for free if you like the video and leave your comments. I would be really happy. Let's move on to the recipe. I will use spaghetti half paper yarn for my bag. Look, it is very practical to use in the form of a ball, and its knitting is very soft. There are many different color options. I'll add the link to the color I used in the description section below. You can access it by clicking there. You can also visit spaghettiyarn.com to look at different color options. My crochet number will also be 3 millimeters. You can determine your own crochet number according to the thinness and thickness of your own yarn, the density and looseness of your knitting. The rope I used is not very thick. 3 millimeters is enough for me. For example, if you use a thicker paper than the paper I used, your measurement will be slightly larger. It is also worth mentioning this, because the thinness and thickness of paper types may vary from color to color. It is useful to share this information. Now, we start with the chain first. After locking our first chain, we prepare our starting chains so that it is a little looser than the setting we knitted. Look, there is a measure that I paid attention to here. I found this number by experience. Now we will draw a total of 15 chains here. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. We have drawn our 15 chains. We will make 14 single crochets. Now we will make single crochets. This is very important. Look, it is not the straight part of the chain. We will turn it completely upside down and use these dashed lines on the reverse part. This will be very useful when joining. Now 15. We made a chain, leaving 15 chains and sinking into the back cut line of 14 chains. I took out a stitch. I have 2 loops. I wrapped them around them. I knitted a single crochet by passing them through the 2. I sink into the back cut line of another chain. I removed a stitch, single crochet. This way, I will get 14 single crochets. Now I knit my single needles until the end of the row and complete them. We have come to the end of our turn. I get my 14th single crochet by sinking into the back cut line of the last chain. There is no specific number in this model. You can build this model on any number you want. We've worked on this before. Many brands use this model. As you know, we worked on their bags last year too. You can build this model on any number you want. It can be an even number. It can be an odd number. It can be any number you want. The important thing is that there are points we need to pay attention to at the end and the beginning. And we will get a complete square for this bag. That is, the points where we end and start. Look, the motif is reclining. One comes vertically. When it comes to horizontal and vertical, the numbers here side by side should not be more or less when we combine them. So I tried many numbers to make it fit perfectly. The number of 14 single crochets fits me perfectly. It may be different for you. It could be 13. It could be 12. It could be 15. You definitely have to experience this. But do it with the numbers I did. If it does, you continue. But when you merge, there was a slight increase here. Accordingly, you do the balancing. The important point here is that the edges are equal when we combine horizontally and vertically. What do we do after knitting on 14 single needles? We immediately move on to our model. We pull 2 chains and turn our knitting. We wrapped it around the head of our crochet hook. We sink into the first void that comes. We wrap it around the first gap after 2 chains. Sink into the first gap. Remove the loop and lengthen it a bit. Let's not make it too long. Some amount is enough. I fill my crochet again. I come right to the next single crochet space. I take off the loop and lengthen it. And now when I count my stitches, there should be 2, 4, 5. I'm filling up. I collect these 5 stitches at once. I fill them directly. Without pulling any chain or anything, I wrap them directly around the head of the hook. Come to the gap where I last inserted. I sink, remove the stitch, and lengthen it. I fill it. Then look at the next stitch. I dip in the next stitch and lengthen my stitch again. I have 2, 4, 5 stitches again. I wrap and complete 5 stitches. I gather in one go. I stitched it again. I dipped in the last place where I dipped again and lengthened the stitch. I filled it. I dipped to the next point and lengthened the stitch. There are 5 stitches. I am filling. I gathered 5 stitches at once. Now look, this process will continue continuously until the end of the row. Right at the end of the row, let's share with you the end and the beginning right at the end of our row. We have come to the end. There is only one single needle left. Now look at the same process again. After collecting 5 stitches, I fill it directly. I sink into the last gap I knitted again and extend the stitch. I wrapped it. I sink to the point where the last single needle was. I remove the stitch. There are 5 stitches again. I fill it. I gathered 5 stitches at once. Now we have finished the model here. But look, when we started, we drew 2 chains. We created a pole point. Now when we finish here, we will create a pole point with the handrail so that the edges go smoothly and straightly, so that our knitting does not get wrong. Now I am filling it. Look, I am sinking again into the last needle I inserted. I am removing the stitch. I am not making it too long. Look, you have 3 stitches. I wrapped them both together. I wrapped it again and knitted both of them together and finished with a double handrail. 2 chains are here, and at the end we finish with a double handrail. Now, at this point, I make turns without a chain. I slightly stretch the stitch. I turn my knitting directly, and look, I sink into the first gap. I remove the stitch and knit a single crochet. I sink to the next point. Look, the gaps are quite clear. We need to have 14 gaps in total. At this last point, the chain may be confusing. I will tell you how to do it here. But if you are working on this model for the first time, we will have the same number of single needles here as we knitted at the beginning. We got our needle. We are sinking it into another space. I took out a single stitch. Look at the spaces. The spaces are quite obvious. We are sinking into our space and knitting our single needles. Now let's knit our single needles quickly until the end of the row. And by the way, look at the softness of the yarn. You can see that I knit it very easily. It does not hurt my hand at all. It is knitted very easily. Now, beginners should definitely count it here. Look, there were 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13 single needles. We will not use the second chain at the end. That is, we will not sink into the second chain. Look at the second chain immediately. There are 1 to 2 chains visible there. After the second chain, there is the peak of the model we first started, in the form of a spike. Look, this will be our 14th single needle. It is important not to miss this point. 1 to 2 chains, and right here is the starting point of the model. We dip here and get the 14th single crochet. This is the whole point of the model. Look, we need to get the same tight needle here, as we started with a tight needle. Now we have completed the first row. We will have done exactly the same model in the second row. Now, after 14 single crochets, we draw 2 chains and reverse our knitting. We wrapped it, we sink into the first gap that comes up. We lengthen the stitch and fill it. We fill the chain, etc. There is no chain, etc. We dip again in the last space we dipped and lengthen the loops. We fill it. We dip to the next point and lengthen the loop. Look like this. We create our model by collecting 5 stitches at a time, and we sink to the last point we dipped, sink to another point, and lengthen the loops. And look like this. We will proceed to the end of the row. Then, when we come to the end of the row, the pattern consists of repeating 2 rows in the form of single crochet again and again. I want the ending and beginnings like this. How do we make this point here while finishing the single crochet during the model? Let's share again. It's a very fast-growing business. We prepare such motifs one by one. It may seem a bit challenging, but it is not at all. It's going really enjoyable. Once you pick it up, you never want to let it go. It has a very practical construction. Look, we have come to the last point. I am coming to the last single crochet. Look, I work the model here by sinking. After knitting the model, I do not leave it. I wrap it around the same space, that is, the last single crochet, and complete my row with a double crochet. Look, we have obtained a very regular knitting. As I said, I make turns without a chain. This way I stretch the stitch directly. I turn it, I knit single needles by sinking into the first space that comes up, and I will knit my single needles by sinking into the other spaces that come up, one by one. And when I count my single needles, there should be 14 needles. Now look like this. We have set up a couple of models. There should be 4 of them. Look, let's continue our model here for 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. The next one right away. Let's continue the step together. Look, we have completed our model here with 1, 2, 3, 4 rows. And after doing our last single crochet row, we have 14 single crochet stitches. Now after making the first motif, let's knit the last single crochet together again. After 2 chains, we sink to the top point where the last model is and knit our single needle. At this point, I pull a chain and extend my loop as far as I can. I cut it off about 5 inches. Now, when the motif is finished, we cut this thread for the first motif. Look here, we will prepare 3 such long pieces. I prepared one. Now we will prepare the second one together. This is how we completed the first motif. Now I will knit a second motif in exactly the same way, with the numbers I have described to you here. I will prepare the second piece just like the first piece. Here I prepared my second motif. By the way, I would like to give you the dimensions. Just before I forget. Look, it becomes a perfect square. I'd say it's about 9.5 centimeters, close to 10 centimeters. The measurement is 9.5 centimeters by 9.5 centimeters, and we obtain a square motif. It is important that it is a perfect square. Because look, one of the models will be horizontal. When the other one comes vertically, look here. When the 14 single crochets meet at the point where these 4 models are, they should coincide exactly like this. Look, they should be the same size so that the motifs should coincide exactly. We will place one horizontally and the other vertically. Now, after knitting the second motif, we do not break the thread in the second motif. Look right here. If you want, we can join the single crochet here. We can continue from here, or look at this part. It can be done in 2 ways. When you hold it in your hand, you will understand the logic of time better. Look, it can be from the point where we first started, or let's combine it from here. Look, let's turn it like this. We had 14 single needles. I turn them. Now look, this one will look vertical. This one should also be horizontal. Look at the model like this. I hope you understand. We will combine it so that one is vertical and the other is horizontal. We are cutting the motif thread. Look like this. After the single crochet, I knitted it directly last. I immediately sink to the top of the single crochet, then look, it will be vertical like this, the other one is horizontal, and it is not the single crochet point of the model. Look, it will coincide with the edge of the model. Look at the first point right here. The first thing we started with is single crochet. I'm sinking into this void. I take the yarn on the tip of my hook. I make a loop from the point where I sink. Look again. I will also remove a stitch from the point where I dropped from the first motif. Let's show it this way. Look, I removed the stitch. I slid it through the waiting stitch. Look, we will combine it like this. With the sliding method, the point with single crochet will remain at the top. This will be like this every time. The first dots, we connected the dots here. When we join them, we need to adjust this so that it ends exactly equal on that edge. Now let's continue. Look, we put the 2 pieces in this way. I come to the next single crochet point, and I sink into the appropriate space here. I remove the stitch, then I subtract it from the first motif and the first motif I stitched, and from the waiting stitch. While making these shifts, I should not do it too tightly. I immediately insert another needle in the same setting as we knitted. And look, I inserted it into the appropriate space of the model and removed a stitch from there. Then I remove my stitch from the other motif. I slide the stitch I removed from the waiting stitch. So look, we started with the scrolling method. We will continue in this way until the end of the row. I hope it was understandable. Look, I'm sinking into the appropriate spaces. I made a loop like this. I slid the loop I removed from the points where I made the stitch from the waiting loop. Using the 14 single crochet stitches here, I sink into 2 points and take the thread from the bottom. I take out my loop from the points I made and slide it from the waiting loop. Look at it this way. We will continue by scrolling. We will make sure that it is equal. Look, this is important. Let's not cut this part until the end of the row. Now look, I'm sinking into the appropriate gaps. It's closed in the part where this model is located. The sliding point will be seen at the top. We will have a nice image. We will continue knitting the second motif and the third motif without breaking the thread. Now I will count like this here. The last point I will insert is 1, 2, or 3 single crochets. The point I will insert should be 1 or 2 or 3. I immediately insert into this part, then I equalize like this, look. And the last point where I will insert, look, the point where the model is the last single crochet, and right here I insert the first single crochet, remove the loop, and make a single needle. I'm pulling my chain like this. I'm definitely doing hand knitting as well. Lastly, we'll iron it with a steam iron. After we put it together, look, we put it together like this. Now, here we need to break the rope. While cutting the rope, look, I pulled a chain. We'll lengthen it by 5 centimeters. We'll cut our rope. Then, look, we'll hide these short ropes at the back very easily. I want to show it like this. We will take the intermediate part and easily hide the rope from the points where the long stitches of this model are located. This way, we will hide the ropes in the beginning. Look, let's leave it long, because if you leave it too short, hiding it may be a problem. Of course, since the aces will come into the bag, there will be no problem if you hide these ropes securely. Now we combine 2 motifs. Look like this. Now one appears vertical and the other horizontal. Now let's prepare a third motif. How do I combine another motif? I want to share it with you once again. Look, I also prepared the third motif. I am sinking to the final point again. I'm knitting my 14th single crochet. Now look, you can place it on this side or on that side. Now look again, with the same technique. After the single crochet, I finished at the last point here. Look, I don't do any action. I'm coming directly. I pierce the top of the last single crochet stitch of the motif I finished with. Then look at the single crochet point right here where we first started. Here I prick the first needle that comes to mind. I'm making a loop. I slide it from the points where I sink and from my waiting loop. Another motivation is sinking. Look, one side should be single crochet, while the other side should be the edge of the model without single crochet. This way I will continue to assemble as I have described here. Look, as I explained to you, we combined the third motif here in the same way we combined the second motif. Now we have prepared the fourth motif. See, there is an important point here. When we look at it now, there are single needles on both sides. Look at these edges. Single needle here again. Single needle here again. What have we always done? Starting from the single crochet here, we join the model to the point with no single crochet as follows. But what do we do when such frequent needles come? Look now. This time we will hold it like this. That is, while our rope is here. We will start from this end so that the single needle here coincides with the modulus point. Normally we would start from here. We'll start from this side. See, single crochet here. We're done. Our model is the same. Now, the single crochet row will coincide with this edge point. It will coincide with the point, without single crochet. Look, the loop will be at the end here. At the point where we started with single crochet, look, I showed you the joining here. We will combine these 2 ways. Now I knitted the last single needle. We had 14 single needles. Now look, I'm going to join it to the single crochet point. When there are single crochets on both sides, what do I do? First, I have to insert the single crochet here. We're going to run the rope from the bottom. The loop is here. First, look, that turn right here is not a chain. I'm inserting the first single crochet into the gap of the chain we knitted. Then I'm sinking the rope to the top of the last single crochet I knitted here. Did I take the stitch from the bottom to the end of my hook and take it out from the points where I made the stitch? I slide the stitch through the waiting stitch. Now look, this single crochet point will remain at the top. We will combine it in this way. That is, we will make the motif order in the form of vertical, horizontal, and horizontal. Let's do it again. Look, we said it is important to sink in the appropriate spaces. Here we actually do the same process. We insert the single needles and take out the stitch from 2 points on the modeled part and make the shift. I insert the single needle into a suitable space and your hand gets used to it. At the next point we will insert, you combine the motif in the same way. Look, while combining here, these last single needles will coincide. For example, if you condense this place too much, there will be shrinkage here, or if you open it up too much, it will be like this. It is definitely useful to place it nicely by hand drawing it like this. Again, the same technique. Look at the single needles and look at the next single needles. This is the first single needle point where we started. We sink into the cut line of the chains. Look, it looks like the top of a normal single crochet. And when you look at the model, it is no different from the other points. If we had sunk into the chain, look, these starting points, like the top of the single crochets, would not be like this. We would have gotten a different image. Now we will come to the end of the row and break our thread here. Look, we will join it like this. Then the edge comes again. Look, the point without single crochet comes. The next motif is knitted with single crochet. Look like here. We will join it like the point we joined here. We will continue like this. Now we will bring the motifs together as we have described 3 pieces to you. Here we combine the first piece like this 8. There will be 2 motifs. We combine 2, 4, 6, 8 motifs in this way. Now, while we are combining the next motif, that is, while preparing the second row of strips, look, we started horizontally here. The vertical will coincide with the horizontal part. The horizontal will coincide with the vertical part. I have prepared my third piece. I want to show it immediately at this stage. Look, now I have prepared the second one. This one started horizontally. This one started vertically. Now this one here, when I looked at the beginning, it looks like vertical. But when I take this part here and place a motif here again, it will be normal horizontal in this part. You can make adjustments in this way when the 3 motifs come in order like this. Another motif will be placed here. It will be horizontal, vertical, horizontal. And it's horizontal, vertical, horizontal, vertical. All sewers will be prepared with this combination. Now let's prepare our 3 strips like this. I prepared 2 of them. Now I will complete the third one. Then look, we will combine these long sections into a long strip using the technique we combined here. And now we will make a hole. I will be sharing that step with you step by step. Look, as we have described, we prepared 3 strips in this way. It consists of 8 motifs. Look, the only point we pay attention to here is that at the beginning, this one comes vertically, while another strip comes horizontally. The next one is vertical. Look, the motifs will not overlap. That is, they will not face the same direction. They are always different. Our order will always be horizontal and vertical. Now we will combine these 3 pieces into a whole. We immediately form a loop with a chain. We will hide these short strings last. Let's start from this point right here. Again, we will combine the motifs here with the logic we combined. When we see single crochet, look at the edge with single crochet, the edge without single crochet, and the edge with single crochet will remain at the top. Look, it will stay on top like this. The rope will walk underneath. I immediately sink into the space where the first single needle is. Look, I'm going to sink into this point and combine it. I sink into the first point with the chain right there and remove my loop from this point. I pass it through the loop I created. Now we will insert it into the next single crochet point again, insert it into the appropriate opposite piece, and combine it again with the same shifting technique. Look, I'm stuck at the point of single needle. And do I sink into the appropriate space on the opposite piece and slide it? It's quite easy. Now, we will continue with the same logic here again. Look, we continue with the scrolling, so that these two shifting points are equal, in a way that matches this. Now let's continue scrolling. Let's knit together at this intersection point. Now there is a different process here. From where? Look, this piece now has an edge without needles. There is a single needle edge on the opposite piece. Now, when I started, there was a single crochet here. Now, when the opposite motif changes, it moves to the opposite piece. We'll take this right to the top. We will always proceed, so that the single needles remain at the top. Now let's get into that intersection. Let's share with you how we make this transition. Look, we are now close to this intersection point. The rope comes from the bottom. I sink into the next single crochet point. Just look, I find the appropriate spaces to be opposite each other. It is necessary to make this adjustment in this way so that it corresponds. I'm going to sink to the bottom part like this, and look, there are two shifting points opposite each other. I'm sinking this shifting point to the part that looks like a Virgo, to the last shifting point we sank to, and I'm taking my rope at the bottom and passing it through the point where I sank. So I'm trying to make these parts equal, so that we can get a uniform image. I definitely sink into those spike-shaped parts of the scroll points where we sank last. So, at these points, I had a mutual sinking experience. Now look, we were always getting this motif from this side. Now we will move on to counter motivation, because the single needles appear here. We proceed so that the single needles are always at the top. Look first at the single needle space. I'm sinking. You can also move it to this part, but since we are looking at that sliding point, I immediately sink to this point. Look, I sink to this side first, then I sink to this part, and the single needle will remain on the upper side. I continue the same scrolling. I hope it is clearly understood. The rope is walking at the bottom. I want to show it like this. Look, the rope. At the point where we see a single crochet at the bottom, we first sink into the single crochet point, and then sink into the other piece, making the two pieces become a whole with the sliding technique. That's the whole point. Look, it looks very neat and beautiful. I haven't ironed yet. Hand iron only. See, this is what it looks like. The single needles were here. We started from here. Then the single needles went here. Look, from here we first insert the needles into the single needles, and then insert them into the other piece and combine them. The points we scroll intersect. We will sink mutually and continue as we show here. Look, we will combine this piece until the end. Then we will combine the other piece in the same way as we have described and make it into a whole. Then we will move on to giving the bag form. Look, we have combined our 3 strips into a whole as we have described. We hid the short strings in this reverse part. After hiding it, I cleaned the excess threads. Afterwards, I ironed it well with a steam iron. Look, it was a very neat and beautiful work. We have obtained a long rectangular piece. Now we will double this piece like this. We will decide where the small part of our bag should be. Look, let this be the small part of our bag. Let this part be the base. Now we will connect the base and the edge. Again, there is no difference with the same method. I'm getting my rope again. I create a loop with a chain like this. We will hide these short strings for last. Now look, I'm going to join it right here in the corner so that I can start from here. I'll end it here in an L shape. Finally, we will put a single needle in the mouth of our bag. Now look, so that the single needle remains at the top. I'm starting from the bottom. I doubled it. We said that 4 motifs are on the front, 4 motifs are on the back. The length of our motif is 3 motifs, and the length of our bag consists of 3 motifs. Now look, I'm sinking to the top point where the first single crochet is. Then I'm going to take this short thread right across from me, like this. Again, our thread will come from the bottom. I open it like this. The scroll point is this full scroll. The point will remain in the middle. We will not touch it. Look, I directly insert it into the first single needle here. Then I immediately insert it into the point opposite. I take my thread from the bottom and pull out my loop from the points where I inserted. Then I insert into another single needle and I insert into another suitable space and slide it in the same way. Look at the space that comes up. I'm sinking. I'm walking the rope on the inside. And again, the point that I will pay attention to here is that the single needle will remain on the upper side, and at the point where I will scroll, look again. While we are combining the scroll parts while scrolling, we will definitely try to adjust these scroll parts so that they coincide, so that we can obtain a uniform image. Join the base like this and look at it with the same technique. The single needle point will always come here. Then look at this side. The single needle will always be in this way. Now, with the same logic, we will come here. Then put a row on the mouth part like this. The original one was like that. You can go 1 row or 2 rows of single needle in this way. Assemble our bag up to the part and made it a hole. I joined the base here. This edge is the last one left. I want to show you right away, in case you are wondering about the turn here. Look, we have sunk the last points here, opposite each other. Look at it like this. By pulling it a little from this side, I sink to the opposite side. I take out the loop in the appropriate spaces and slide it. In this way, I make the transformation, again insert into the appropriate spaces, opposite each other, and keep the single needle on the upper side. And I complete the joining like this. I want to show you that there is no difference here again. See what we have described for you. We will put it together like this. Then we will definitely have steam ironed it. Now let's complete this part. Look, we have completed it on the edge here. Now our bag has taken its shape. You can see our opening point at the mouth. Now we will complete this part by knitting a row of single needles. Then the lining and zipper will come inside. Now after making the last slide, tie it with a chain like this. I go up and knit a single crochet in the space immediately coming to the point where the single crochet comes. Now look, what is our trick here? We will knit 14 single crochets at the point where there is no single crochet, because there were 14 single crochets here. Let's not do too much or too little, so that we can get a smooth knit. Let's say we will prepare our knitting to fit 14 single needles. Now I am adjusting it to 1 or 2 at this intermediate point, and 1 at this point, so we will have knitted 14 single needles in total. Look, I am adjusting the following sections as follows. 2, 2, 2, 4, 6, 8, then 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I plan to make 14 stitches with this shifting point, so it could be 14 stitches, maybe even 13. If you want it to be too tight, if you want it to fluctuate, you can adjust it according to your needs. Now I sink to this shifting point and knit my single crochet, then the single crochets come here. Look, we will have knitted a row of single crochets. Look, the single crochets are already ready. There are 14 single crochets here. We will have 14 single crochets here again. We will finish it this way. You can also scroll if you want. Now, as we have described our row in this way, it is okay. We have come to the end of our row. I am sinking into the last space here. After the needle, I stretched some film and cut it. I took it out of my knowledge. I started first, inserting the top of the single needle from back to front and passing the short thread through there. Then lastly, I knitted it. I dipped into the outer wing of the single needle and the back cut line and passed this thread through here. Look, we finish like this. Then we will reinforce and hide the short thread inside. As I said, after ironing it with a steam iron, the inside will be lined and zippered. Since I don't have a machine on hand, I have described it to you up to this stage. It is exactly compatible with the original. I can even say that it is more beautiful. It is very neat. Can you take a look? I want to show it up close once again. I want to show it in its finished form right now. Let's share with you the finished size of our bag. I would like to say this. Look, the width of our bag is 35 centimeters, and the length of our bag is 27 centimeters. It was a really enjoyable work. I hope you like it and come back. I wish good luck to those who will do it. Don't forget to like our video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. Goodbye, until we see you in the next video.